Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back to Fat Cat Collections. And today I just want to do a quick discussion video about car audio. And I want this video because I have a few systems in my cars. I've been into car audio since I was about 16 years old, and I have a lot of experience with car audio. Now guys, remember, I'm not a guy who competes, so I wanted to put up this video just to discuss a few things to think about when building a system and to respond to a couple of the internet trolls who think they know it all about everything. So I want to call one moron by the name of Bob, B-O-B, not all Bobs, but this particular Bob, and he was commenting that my system looked great till I popped the trunk and saw the Sony Xplods. Now this system does not have Sony Xplods in it anymore. I did end up putting two Sony Xplods $50 Walmart subs, which are sold everywhere. Crutchfield sells them, everybody sells Sonys. They're inexpensive entry-level subs. And I want to discuss why I chose Sonys, what I think about the Sonys, and then discuss how they've compared to other subs of comparable price and more expensive subs. One thing I want you guys to take from this video is the most important part of designing your system when it comes to adding bass. Now, I'm not going to talk, this video isn't about high-end or about like the mid-range in the tweeter aspect of your car. It's mainly about the low-end. And so when it comes to audio, there are different kind of guys out there, right? So there's some guys out there who are going to compete and they don't really care what it looks like. We see these knuckleheads, and I don't mean all of them, but we see a lot of these trolls on YouTube who put up systems of their cars and they look like absolute trash. I mean, it's the kind of thing they slap together in their garage. They didn't even finish the box. And they throw it in there and they put the subs in there. They piss all their money away on the audio gear and the car looks like absolute crap. Now, that's just my opinion. Now, if that ultimately makes that person happy, if that's what they're designing that system for, strictly competing, then more power to you. What I can't stand is when these guys do this kind of thing for their own reasons, but then condemn other people for somebody else's reasons. Now, let me just explain to you what I look for in a car audio system. I like to keep my cars clean, and what everybody likes something different. I like putting the wheels in the cars, lowering it. I'm not a guy who's out there racing, and so I do very mild things when it comes to performance, and when it comes to audio, I do a couple things. I am a bass head, I do like bass, but there's a point, there's a limit to how far I'll go to get bass. I want the most bass possible out of my system, that's guaranteed. I want to be able to flex the windshield, I want to be able to really have it bang when I want to bang. But most of the time, I just don't listen to it like that. I don't compete, but when I want to turn it up, I want to turn it up. So just a few systems that I have now. I have two 10s in my Honda Accord ported, tuned to 32 Hertz and 3 cubic feet. I have a 5.5 cubic foot box in my Solara that originally was for 4 sealed 10s. I'm never happy with sealed, which is why I'll never go back to sealed. And now I have 3 10s by Power Acoustic, 5.5 cubic feet tuned to 32 Hertz. And in my Jaguar I have 112 Power Acoustic tuned 2 cubic feet to 32 Hertz. I can honestly tell you that every system sounds a little bit different, but they all produce a nice amount of bass. When it comes to a system, you have to decide on how much trunk space you're willing to give up, or in some cases how much back seat space, and what you're really looking to accomplish. What I can't stand is when some of these high schoolers come on YouTube with their beat up bucket ass cars who build a box in their garage, a basic square ported box with no finish work whatsoever, spend all their money, all their paycheck on the subs and the amp, and don't do anything to the car, and then come on my channel and tell me how I chose the wrong subs. When I chose the Sony Xplods subs, it's because they were most affordable. I was going with subs that I needed 6 of them, and I didn't really want to spend $1,000 on subwoofers. I know that there are other options on what I could have done to get more output, but I knew that doing the amount of subs I was going to do, the amount of power I was going to run, that I was going to get some kind of output out of it, or I was happy with it, and still get the look I was going for. I remember as a young guy selling car audio, I witnessed one of the Sony Xplod demo trucks where they did all entry-level gear and they did their 16 10s. And this thing absolutely banged. And you had so much cone area and so much volume that you didn't really have to run as much power as you normally would to really drive a sub to max. Remember guys, the more subs you have, the less hard the system has to work to produce the same amount of output. Now again, depending on what you're going to be doing with it, there are rules of thumb to everything, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to how much bass you want and what kind of look you're going for. I'm responding and making this video because this dumbass today told me that Sony Xplods are absolute garbage and that he recommended me spend, a bunch of money on some, who's the brand here? On it's very well Sundown Audio subs. He picked up the LCS subs, and he's trying to make the argument basically that Sonys are garbage because they're sold at Walmart, and that the LCS subs are somehow superior to the Sony Xplods. I can tell you that the LCS subs, by looking at them, are the most basic subs you can buy. They're probably not even made by Sundown Audio. They're probably a generic sub from Parts Express with the Sundown Audio name on them. And a lot of times these companies do make a broad spectrum of products, but a lot of times they make certain products designed for competition, and they know there is a market for entry-level stuff, people who don't want to spend a lot of money but still get a little bit of bass. They're not competing, and they basically come out with a subwoofer and slap their name on it that's made by some other company just to still kind of tap into the market, because people automatically assume, oh, Sundown's a car audio company, they're amazing, they won awards, people compete with them, then all their subs must be amazing. And I'm not saying that they're bad, but they're not any better than your $50 Sony Xplode, and you're gonna pay a premium because it's got the Sundown name. It's the old argument like Rolex versus Invicta. Just because you pay $8,000 for a watch, yeah, it might be better in some regard, but is it really worth that? Are you really going to be able to take advantage of it? For me, I'm never going to put a gigantic piece of shit box in the back seat of my Honda and go around bumping at drive-thrus. It's just not me. I want the car to look nice. I want the system to look nice. I want it to look custom. I want it to look like as close to something maybe the factory would have done. As far as making it look like it blends in. I'm not going to take advice from some teenager who goes ahead and puts two 18s in the back seat of their broken down Honda with a cracked windshield. That's not my idea of a nice looking car. Now, there's nothing wrong if that's what makes that kid happy or that adult happy. There's nothing wrong if you like to compete. We're interested in two different things. I'm not looking to flex my windshield, but here's the difference. I don't want somebody to come here and tell me that I'm lying in that my Honda or my Solara doesn't flex the windshield. Does it flex enough to crack it? No. But does it move the windshield? Yes. Do these systems bang? Do they sound good? Yes. So I don't want some guy who's never sat in my car and listened to it to tell me that my stuff is garbage and that I should change it, because the person's never heard it. And if you can't listen to it in person, you can't judge a system by a YouTube video. You can listen to a system that's a world record holder with a state-of-the-art, amazing system in their car that has won competitions. Listen to that audio clip and then listen to some guy's system who hardly isn't getting any output. You can't tell me that you can tell the difference between those two. You can assume, you can make a judgment call based on what you see, but if you play those things side by side with your eyes closed, you nor I could tell how loud that system is and what it sounds like. You have to listen to it in person. So for every one of you morons out there who judge a system by a video, please find some sort of intelligence and understand. You're audio guys. You should understand that you can't judge a system by you're depending upon the microphone in your laptop, in your camera, the speakers attached to the computer that you're listening to it on. How on earth can you think you can judge a system? Now, if you see somebody doing a hair trick, you could probably say, yeah, that system's putting out some SPL, right? That guy's got some real power there. But I'm not looking to go get high school girls and have them do hair tricks in my car. I'm a grown-ass man. I want it to sound good. I want to be able to really get that bass and feel it in my chest. I'm not looking to make my whole car a giant speaker box. So you have to you have to look at what a person's goals are. Now, I can tell you, when designing an audio system, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Now, if you're on a competition level, that you're competing and you're looking to maximize every bit of performance, every bit of volume out of your fitment, then yes, certain subs, power, all that stuff is going to make a difference to try to squeeze the power. But remember, the more that a subwoofer can take, the more power you have to run to it. And there's other factors like car acoustics and all kinds of different things that factor how an audio system sounds and how much bass you get out of it. 110 in the back of my Honda will never be as loud as 110 in the back of a hatchback or the back of a SUV. It's just not possible. So I can't stand when guys who are willing to take two 18-inch subwoofers and an amp that costs more than their car, throw it in the back of a inferior built box or just a shitty looking box, bang the living shit out of the system, flex the shit out of the car where it's falling apart, and then tell me how I chose the wrong subwoofers and how my subwoofers are garbage. This is what I need to get. Guys, if you take a look at my car, obviously I chose Sony subs because they're affordable, because they look nice, and because they're great bang for buck. And I can honestly sit here and tell you that when I've compared the only real way to test a sub is to actually have your system done in the car and change it out with different subwoofers. Unless you're willing to change out the amp and redo the whole thing, the only real way to test a subwoofer's performance with the amp you have is to put in the car, in the sub box, in your environment, and test it. And I can tell you, based on my experience with Sony Xplods subs, that they sound and play just as good as Power Acoustic, as Alpine, as Rockford Fosgate, and as MTX. Now, I haven't had the highest end tier of those brands, because there's no point unless I'm going to rip out the wire and replace the amplifier. There's no point. If I'm going to put a subwoofer like let's just say, for numbers that I can remember, an MTX 6000 sub is what I used to have in there back in the day, which is roughly a comparable sub to a Sony Xplod, which I've had in that box. There's been no difference in the sound quality or volume out of those two subs in that box. They sound the same. And then the parameters for those subs are exactly the same. Remember, subwoofers come with a lot of different parameters, but the main parameters you should be focusing on is X-Max, power handling, and air volume. And most of the air volume requirements are the same across the board. Unless you have something very specific, you're pretty safe going with 1.5 cubic feet for a 10 tuned to 32 hertz. If you're ear, and you have to know what you like. I personally like that low end rumble that you get out of 32 hertz. I can get more wrap volume by tuning a little bit higher into the 40s, which is what, when you buy a prefab box, is what mainly those boxes are tuned for. In the 40s, you get more of that boomy sound. I want the bang, but I also want that low depth. I want to really be able to play those frequencies low and hard that you are getting closer to not being able to hear, based on human hearing. So remember, everybody wants them different, and guys, again, be respectful. Just because you don't have Sony Xplods in your car doesn't mean they're garbage. You can't judge a book by its cover. Sure, if you've listened to a guy buy a $70 prefab Walmart box that's sealed, slapped a couple Sony Xplod subs in it, and then want to compare it to 218 DC audios on 6,000 watts in the back of your Honda Civic, then yeah, naturally you're going to say, well, man, those 218s are a lot louder. They sound a lot better. Of course they do. Look at what you spent. Remember, it's bang for buck. And I can honestly tell you that if you're not looking to compete and you're looking to get some bass in your car and get some bass, it's going to flex, it's going to rattle your mirror, it's going to do those kinds of things, rattle the shit out of your car, you can get a lot of output from very entry-level gear. And just based on my experience testing, Sony Xplods, $50 a sub. Rockford Fosgate, Punch, middle of the road. I forget which ones they were. They weren't like their Power series. And now there's so many different ones. But back when I was buying this kind of stuff, when I bought Fosgate, you had your 3 different tiers: your Power series, your middle tier, and then your entry level tier, your low end tier, which would be comparable to like this LCS sub this idiot recommended. Again, not saying, I can guarantee if I put that LCS 10 in my box, it's going to bang too. It's going to sound just as good as my Sony Xplods. There's not going to be a difference. There are slight differences. Maybe you'll notice, just, I shouldn't say any difference, you might notice a little difference, but it's not going to be the old Rolex Invicta argument where you're like, whoa, man, those things really killed those Sonys. Man, I'll never buy those again. It's not going to be that. And I know that because, again, MTX 6000 series subs. Rockford Fosgate, they were the carbon fiber ones, middle of the road, Punch series, no center cap. Then I had the old school ones back in like 2000, Punch series. And then I had the, MTX 6000s, and now the Sony Xplods. My Solara, I had the 610s, which again, acoustic cancellation, problem with the deck. Now I have 3 10s. I had 3 Sony Xplod 10s, 5.5 cubic feet, tuned to 32 hertz. It banged. Changed them out only because Power Acoustic sponsored the video. I did the whole system Power Acoustic because I am a Power Acoustic fan. I do feel like you get a lot of bang for your buck. I did 3 DVC 2-ohm 10s, 1.3 ohm load on their biggest BAMF series amp. Again, this is all entry-level gear. You're not spending a lot of money for this stuff. It bangs, right? But it doesn't bang any harder than those Sony Xplods. Sony Xplods are rated at 350 watts RMS, the Power Acoustic 1600. In order for me to really take advantage and to really see a difference, I'd have to run the maximum amount of wattage. And I just don't have the power to do that. And it's not important enough to me to spend the extra money, the extra upgrades for the electrical system to do that. It's loud enough already. It sounds great already. There's no reason to do that. Now, if I ever somehow got involved in competing and really wanted to go that route, then that would be something I'd consider. But honestly, at that point, I'd probably just pull the whole system out and start over. I can tell you that if you want to maximize bang for buck, if you want to keep your car looking nice still and not put a shitty prefab box, or which a lot of these guys do, or they build a basic, really run-of-the-mill basic MDF box and throw it in the back of their car, in the back seat, and you don't want to have, you know, anybody back there, then by all means do what you want to do. But if you're looking to still have some trunk space, if you're looking to be somewhat practical with it, you know, with all my systems, I still have some trunk space. Not as much as I would like, but that's one of the reasons why with the Jag I just did 112. I wanted more trunk space. If I ever change the Accord up, I'll probably go with 112 just to get more trunk space. You know, I think you can get a lot, and if I'm going to go with, you again, you have to balance how practical do you want the system. If you're looking to, my advice to you, if you're looking to have a system that gives you the most bang for buck, but you're not willing to sacrifice a lot of space, and you're like, hey, I just want it to sound good, then I wouldn't go with a Sony Xplode. I wouldn't go with something entry level. I would go with the biggest amp you can get in there that's going to be okay to run on a factory electrical system, and really realistically you should probably stay under 1,000 watts RMS and get a sub that'll roughly handle about 600 watts RMS. You can get to 1,000, but you're not really going to be driving that home. The recommendation's 1,000. If you really want to drive a sub home, you want to run more than your RMS rating. I always go double. That's a nice rule of thumb for me. If a sub rates at 300 watts RMS, I'm going to usually run 6 to it. You know, most of the time when you blow a sub, it's from underpowering distortion, not overpowering. Again, I'm giving you advice on real world, daily driver, normal, have your car look nice, not rattling, falling apart, bucket, you know, a little bit of trunk space, back seat, so you can maybe have somebody come along with you. You know, I'm giving you kind of real world, more practical advice here. Not that if you're the guy who's like, I want my ears to bleed and crack my windshield, then don't take my advice. Take the teenager's advice driving the shitbox. You know, who live with their mom and dad still, okay? You know, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't want these morons coming on here giving me advice. Now, I will fire back. I will state my piece like I'm saying now. I will then ban them on the channel because I have no tolerance and room for know-it-alls. Yes, there are better brands out there, but that doesn't mean that Sony is a piece of shit. It doesn't mean because Walmart sells, if the argument there, think about the common sense there. Well, Walmart sells them, they gotta be shit. Think about that for a second. Walmart sells all kinds of things. Our Nokia phone shit, our iPhone shit, you know, all the different products they sell. Just because Walmart sells a product doesn't mean it's bad. Look at all the TVs, Vizio, Sony, LG, Samsung. Are they all shit now because Walmart sells them? That statement comes from somebody who really lacks common sense and intelligence. And B.O.B., you can look at the comment section, I ripped them apart. Guy's a troll. You know, just use your brain. Again, if you're looking to have a nice system and you want it to sound good, like again, my Jaguar, I want to do one sub. I wanted to maximize the bass I can get and make the box as small as possible. With that car, I was limited because I have to keep the factory deck. There's no way to get rid of the factory deck. It's all fiber optic. So with that, I went with a nice entry level. Not entry level, I went with an entry level brand, Power Acoustic. I've been very happy with the brand. I think you get a lot of bang for buck. I have them in all my cars, no problems, knock on wood, right? I mean, here's my real world experience. I mean, I've had the Fosgate Punch 800. I still have it. Is it a good amp? Yeah, but you get a much better value with Power Acoustic. Much better. You get twice the wattage for, like, at the time, that was an $800 amp, you know? So again, it depends on what you're looking to do. Don't let somebody dissuade you from going with affordable brands because you get a lot of bang for your buck. And I can tell you based on my experience, nobody would sit in any of my cars and not say, man, that shit pounds. The only one that has a little bit of an issue is the Jag, and that's because it hasn't been tuned yet, and I'm basically taking a high level output out of an amplified system and bringing it down with a audio control LC1 high level to low level converter, and then boosting it back up to a 2,000 watt RMS amp. I'm getting the most I can get out of the system with minimal distortion. There's not really much I can do after that. You know, unfortunately, that car you can't change anything out. My other cars, it's all done right. You have the proper deck, you have the proper voltage, everything's tuned right, it bangs, and it's all entry level gear. And remember, in life, you know, weigh your expectations. Remember, manage your expectations. If you're going to go and spend a whole bunch of money on a system, you may put it together and it may not be up to par. It may not give you what you were looking to do. If you don't spend a lot and you get a lot of output, you're going to be that much more, happy with it. You're gonna be that much more impressed. People will be that much more impressed. When I crack my trunk and show people when they ask, not that people do because I don't show or compete, but they listen to my system and I crack it open and Sony Xplods, they're like, wow, I always thought those were garbage subs. No, because you believe what people tell you. And I can tell you, when you look at a company like Sundown, they make some amazing competition products for a given purpose. It's like a race car engine. Why would I need a Ferrari Formula One race engine in my Honda Accord? It can't happen, but it's not designed for that. That's not the purpose. My Honda Accord or my Toyota or my Jag, they're not race cars. There's no point in having that kind of power in those cars. I'm not competing. There's no reason for me to go get some of these competition grade subwoofers. It's like me putting that in my Honda is like me wanting to have 600 horsepower in my Honda to go to the grocery store. Now, some of you may want that, okay? But I personally don't. I don't need that. I'm not a fast driver. I just like it to sound good, look good, and be happy with it, right? And so I don't need somebody trying to force their opinions and what they like out of life. Again, if you're the kind of guy who wants to have your whole back seat, if I want to go out and spend $3,000 and piss my money away on two giant competition grade 18s and have no back seat and just shove a box in there, I can do hair tricks. I can have a girl do hair tricks in my car too. I can have my windshield flexing and crack. That's not what I'm looking to get. I'm not looking. I'd rather have spend $3,000 on put it towards another vehicle. I'd rather have a nice set of wheels for that vehicle. I don't need base enough that I'm willing to sacrifice the look of the car, the quality of the car, maybe other things I'd rather spend money on. And even if money is no object, there's still no reason on earth I would want to have a system that completely took up the trunk of my car. Would I want to maximize bass? Absolutely. Would I go with the best quality stuff I could in order to get me that bass? Yeah. But I can tell you right now, with my car, if any one of my cars, if I were to go ahead and change those subs out to some Sundown Audio top of the line subwoofers, the electrical system can't handle 6,000 watts. Could I get more output going with a different sub and another amp? Yeah, but there's a limit to how much I want. I'm not looking to go any further because I really, most of the time, don't use what I have. So, guys, take car audio with a grain of salt. Take what people say with a grain of salt. Use your best judgment based on what your wants, your needs, and your desires are. If you're looking to absolutely blow your eardrums out and to disturb everybody on earth, everybody in your town, everybody you drive by, and have no respect for people whatsoever, when somebody pulls up next to me and I'm in a mood where I'm cranking it loud, I turn my radio down. I don't want to disturb other people. I have enough respect for their own wishes that I'm not looking to do that, right? Some of these other people out there, not so much. They don't mind shaking the entire drive-through because they think it's cool. Nobody thinks that's cool. They say, this guy is arrogant, an asshole, and has no regard for anybody else's feelings, okay? Great. Do that on your own time. If you want to drive down the road where you're not disturbing anybody, by all means, crank it up. I do it. I love it, but I turn it down when I'm around other people. In addition, it's loud enough. If I could have the same bass output that I have now out of one sub, that might be a different reason for me to maybe go with something that's more competition grade level, right? Let's just say I want to maximize the amount of output. Yeah, there are subs out there that if you put the proper power to them, there are situations where you can get a competition level, let's say 110, right, compared to my 310s. You could probably get 110, the proper box, a shit ton of power, and set that up properly where you'll probably get close to the amount of output. But do I want to spend $1,000 for a sub, completely redesign the system? Do I want to